It seems like if I were to sum this up, ignore all the failure, give out a lot of bumper stickers, slogans, platitudes, and not address what's actually happening in the world, more specifically, the one sanction that would work as it relates to Russia and Ukraine, and that, of course, would be stopping the importation and exportation of any energy by Vladimir Putin.
Sean, I think that's exactly right. You know, tonight was the 10th State of the Union that I've been on the floor of the House of Representatives to hear from the third different president. And this was the most out-of-the-touch State of the Union speech that I have ever heard. Biden went through a litany of acknowledging some of the problems we face in this country, but utterly denying any responsibility, any culpability for it. So he acknowledged galloping inflation, but didn't say a word about the trillions in spending and trillions of debt he rammed through that caused that inflation. He acknowledged gas prices are skyrocketing, but didn't say a word about the war on domestic energy production that his administration led. He acknowledged the need to secure our southern border, but didn't say a word about the failure of his administration to enforce the laws leading to the highest rate of illegal immigration in 61 years. On Ukraine, he acknowledged Russia's invasion, but didn't say a word about the disastrous weakness from his administration, the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan, or his decision to waive sanctions on Russia on Putin's Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is what directly led to this invasion. On every issue, he was like Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. I see nothing, I hear nothing. With him, that may be right. But he denied any and all culpability. And I'll tell you 4 words that I didn't hear at all tonight. I didn't hear crime. He didn't acknowledge the crime rate that is soaring across this country, the murder rate that is soaring across this country because of the Democrats' push to abolish the police. He didn't say the word China even once. It was stunning that China is the greatest geopolitical threat facing the United States, and somehow it didn't make it into the speech. He didn't say Afghanistan. He didn't even acknowledge the disgraceful surrender and retreat that he led, and he didn't say Israel. That was really striking in a State of the Union, and I think it was really a disappointing speech.
Let me ask you, why do you think he didn't mention Afghanistan and China, for example? I agree with your assessment completely. And frankly, we're watching the territorial ambitions of Putin unfold worldwide. I would expect that China, probably in pretty short order, is going to reunify, their words, with Taiwan and basically take over that country. And I don't think Joe Biden or any country in the world is going to lift a finger to stop China.
No, that's exactly right. The Russian invasion of Ukraine was caused by 2 things. Number one, last year, Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, his surrender to the Taliban, his leaving Americans behind, his abandoning Bagram airfield, releasing terrorists, which led to the murder of 13 servicemen and women. And what happened, Sean, is enemies of America across the world, enemies like Russia, like China, like North Korea and Iran, they all looked to Washington. And they took the measure of the man in the Oval Office. And unfortunately, they concluded that he was weak and feckless and ineffective. And I said at the time, the chances of a Russian invasion of Ukraine have just increased tenfold. And as you just referenced, the chances of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan have increased tenfold. That when the American president is weak and when he's perceived as weak, our enemies are emboldened and the world's more dangerous. Now, there's a lot we could be doing on Ukraine right now. And you made reference in your opening monologue to the most important step we could do right now, which is boycotting Russian energy, boycotting Russian oil and gas. You know, Biden put sanctions in, but remarkably, he put exceptions for energy. Putin gets the bulk of his funds from selling oil and gas, and Biden accepted that, just like he did on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. We need to make the Nord Stream 2 sanctions
but Senator,
permanent, and we need to boycott Russian oil and gas.
We got to emphasize that Joe Biden artificially reduced the world supply, and as a result, he pushed our allies, NATO allies, European allies, right into the arms of Putin. Now, if you look at what's going on and what's been happening all day, you've got a 40-mile convoy of Russian military vehicles that are snaking towards Kyiv. Then, of course, from Belarus, they'll head south right to Kyiv. And it seems like a massive military undertaking is about to take place. And I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of dead people as a result of this next stage of this invasion. Your thoughts?
So we're seeing extraordinary heroism from the Ukrainian people, and they are standing and defending their homes. We need to be providing them with lethal military equipment, more Stingers, more Javelins. They are fighting the Russian army. Putin is shocked at how ferociously they're defending their homeland. The Biden administration last year in both April and December halted the transfer of military equipment to Ukraine because they wanted to appease Putin. That was a mistake. But I'll tell you, this afternoon I sat down with the former CEO of Ukraine's largest natural gas company, and he was talking about how Putin is counting on the fact that Europe is addicted to his gas and to his oil, and Putin believes no matter what he does, Europe needs that natural gas and oil. We need to impose a boycott on Russian oil and gas and replace it with American production. After this speech, I pulled the U.S. Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, aside, and I said, listen, we have an opportunity. Texas can stand up and produce the natural gas. We can produce the oil. But the Biden administration has got to clear the export of liquid natural gas. And if we fill European demand, nothing will weaken Putin more than taking away his revenue. And one of the things that's really striking, if the European refineries are looking for another source of oil and gas, they're not going to be able to purchase that just on the spot market. The producers are going to ask for long-term contracts, and if the European refineries are signing long-term contracts with American producers or other producers around the world, that will both terrify Putin and weaken him fundamentally with the oligarchs and with the security infrastructure there. That is actually fighting to win. But I'll tell you, Sean, my concern as I hear from Biden's national security team, they don't believe in winning this war. They are almost resigned to Putin conquering Ukraine. And I think if we stand and use the economic might of America, if we envision victory, you know, Reagan said very powerfully during the Cold War, what's your objective? We win, they lose. That should be our objective here, and we can do it with economic might, with a boycott of Russian oil and gas, and with providing military equipment to Ukraine so they can defend their nation. Not U.S. soldiers, but Ukrainians defending their own homeland.
Senator, I had the same exact reaction, and that is that they basically are conceding the entire country of Ukraine, and Ukraine will fall without the Javelins, without the Stinger missiles. Hopefully they'll get enough. And then the question is going to be, okay, will NATO be a paper tiger, or will they stand up and fight if it's Estonia or Lithuania or Latvia? That's a question I can't answer tonight. And the one sanction that would have worked is to put an end to dependence on all things energy from Russia.
Yes,
and that's the one thing they didn't do. That would have been the most effective sanction. Well said. Senator Ted Cruz, Texas, thank you.